Okay guys, welcome along to Kiwi Classics and Customs. Experiment day, Bill Nye the Science Guy kind of day happening here. What I have here, and okay, it looks like a contraption, I get it. This is the electric track off the seat, the new electric seat for Marge. So, and it's very rusty. So I'm going to try this electrolysis deal. It's all over YouTube. Now I've never done it myself, so I'm just basically going through it. And if you guys want to watch along, that'd be awesome. So yeah, we're doing an experiment. I've got this wired up. That's ready to hang in the water. We've got some positive cables here hooked in, ready to connect. In the tub here, got about 6 gallons of water. It's enough to submerge that fully. What I've mixed in is this Arm & Hammer super washing soda. Now that is not the same as baking soda, it is washing soda. Everything I've read up and I've been able to research says don't use baking soda, it's not the same stuff. And Arm & Hammer make baking soda and they make super washing soda. So, seems to me they wouldn't make two different, with the same product and sell it in 2 different boxes, but I don't know, could be wrong I guess, but yeah, that's what I've been told to use. That's like $5 a box, so it's next to nothing. I've put, this is a 3-pound box, so I've got about probably 2/3 of the box in there, and what I've been able to ascertain for what it's worth is that you mix it up until you really can't dissolve any more. That's as strong as the solution's going to get, and the stronger the solution, the more conductive it is. So, next step really is to lower this in, just like that. We're going to tuck that under there. We'll try to. Now, what I ended up doing was I was just going to use these 2 red wires here to connect it to the sliding track, but I've got the stainless wire just suspending it, and obviously that's touching the seat rail. So yeah, why not just tag that? So I've tucked that under. We're getting some connectivity across the stainless wires as well as down through the red wires, which are going to the slider itself. Next thing is you need like an anode, they call it, or a sacrificial piece of metal. The bigger the better, they say. The closer to the actual piece you're trying to de-rust, the better. So I just grabbed that, a little bit of scrap. I did clean it up. They said the cleaner it is, the better. So I just ran the angle grinder over that and cleaned that up so it's nice and bright. Again, more connectivity. So I'm going to lay that down in the side here. Now, I just put a little hole in the side of the bucket here so this doesn't, it makes it a little bit harder to lose, get disturbed. So yeah, now basically I have to, now in an ideal world I would have an old school battery charger that we can use, and you can kind of set it, suppose, it's all over the map as far as some people are saying 1 amp, 2 amp, some people are saying it works better at 10 amps, and they're also saying you can use an old school trickle charger if you combine it with a battery, because if you connect the trickle charger, the modern digitized ones, straight to these terminals, it won't recognize that, that it'll know that there's no battery there, so it won't try and charge. So you've kind of got to loop it in to the battery. So at the moment, I've got these 2 cables coming from an old shop battery, which, if that gets harmed, so be it. So I'm going to connect that to here. This is the negative going over to this one. Now there's a little spark there when I connect it, so something's happening. And oh, you see it fizzing already. Okay, I'm going to connect the battery charger. yeah, we're getting lots of fizz. Okay. Now, hopefully there's not going to explode or anything. I probably should be wearing all sorts of protective gear, but, well, you guys know what I'm like. My wife won't be happy when she sees this, if she sees it. But yeah, I'll grab the camera so you can see just how much activity's going on in here. It's, I'm a little surprised, I'll be honest with you. It's kind of where it's the busiest there. So something's happening. What? Don't really know. Obviously some electrical chemical reaction, which is kind of the electrolysis that everyone talks about. That does seem a lot of activity. So yeah, time will tell. I'm gonna, now it's like 10 o'clock in the morning here. I will not be leaving it on overnight, because supposedly it can take a couple of days for it to dig through something or work its way through that heavy rust scale, which that piece has a lot of rust scale. So I won't be leaving it on overnight unattended, and it does create some gases apparently, so I'm going to have the extractor fan going in a minute. And yeah, and I'm just going to like come back, I don't know, maybe lunchtime, and you know, in a couple of hours, and see what it looks like and what's happening. But yeah, it's blowing little bubbles, and there's something happening, no doubt. There's no heat in the cables, so yeah, they don't really feel like the cables are any more than room temperature. So at this point, I'm going to say it doesn't really appear like there's going to be, you know, any risk of the battery blowing up or something like that. As I say, it's a little bit of an experiment. I've only seen like one guy say to do it this way. So time will tell. All right, I'll be back in 2 hours. So a couple of hours later, things are happening down there in the bucket. Now, I just want to correct myself. I actually wired this thing up backwards. It is actually supposed to have the positive going to the anode and the ground, the negative side, going to the part you're trying to clean. So, yeah, I was kind of looking at all the fizzing that was going on, and like a couple of minutes after I shut the camera off, I'm thinking, wow, that anode is really going to town. And I thought, I'll just go and double check that I've got this wired right, and I didn't. I had it on backwards, so I was trying to get the rust off the anode, and you know, using the seat mechanism, you know, as the sacrificial, you know, was going to actually get more rust on it, which was not really the desired effect. So I quickly switched those around, and it's still fizzing away. But yeah, it's now the seat track that's doing the fizzing instead of the anode. Anode does fizz a little bit, but yeah, the majority of the fizzing, shall we call it for want of a better word, is going on with the seat track. So let me just point you down in that direction. And yeah, you can see the water's certainly gone murky. We've kind of got a brown sludge going on. Gosh, I hope I don't drop the camera into this thought. But yeah, the activity's kind of died down a little now, but you can still see the bubbles coming up. There's something going on, and you can see the liquid or the water is moving. Yeah, if you kind of, she's fizzing away. So we'll just lift this up a little bit. I mean, it's certainly not looking like a brand new part yet, but you can see that there's changes going on, changes afoot. So yeah, I guess really now it's just a case of a couple of hours in. You know, there's no major issues, so I'm just going to leave it percolating. The battery charge is just charging away. Obviously not gaining, because I think most of the power it's putting out is heading into the solution. So yeah, Alright, Kev, all under control there, Kev? Yep, good. Okay, he's given us the nod. Alright, I will check back in as I'm heading home tonight and see what that looks like, and you know, turn it off and put it on again in the morning. So I will keep you updated back in a few hours. Right, so it's the end of the day. Been kind of taking a few sneak peeks at it. It's calmed down quite a bit. So there's a couple of things I've figured out with this process. So if you come in a bit closer, Stu, you'll see about there to there is where the anode is. And I had that on the other side of this, and the other side of the seat mechanism was really fizzing and is almost clean. So I switched it over to this side, and you can see it's fizzing. And one of the things I've kind of, in the little bit of research I've done, is the closer you have your anode to your piece that you're trying to descale, the more efficient it is. So I've got this like 8-inch long piece of square tube, and the seat track's twice as long. And what I've noticed is you can see, I'm not sure whether it'll show on camera, but right here you can kind of see it bubbling up. Hopefully you can see that. And if you grab the anode and slide it all the way to the other end, you will see that the activity is increasing here at this end of the track and has almost stopped completely down here. There's no fizzing here. So what that's telling me is that this is really critical as to how big your anode is. So what I'm thinking of doing overnight, we're going to turn this off tonight, but tomorrow I'll probably get another longer piece of sacrificial metal to go on this side, and I'll double wire it and I'll put a piece on the other side. So then we've got anodes on both sides of the seat track, and and the full length of the seat track, so we get like a big hit over the whole thing, not just in places, because it's definitely following, the reaction is following the anode. Now the other thing that really blew my mind was I pulled the anode out to have a look at it. Now remember, this was the piece that I showed you at the beginning of the video that was like ground with the flat wheel, and it was like super shiny and super clean. Now look at it now. Look at this thing. That looks like it came off the Titanic. So yeah, that's nasty. So I am going to call it a day on this. Let that poor old shop battery charge up, clean this up. In the meantime, let's have a look at the actual seat track. Here, where it's spent most of the day with the anode on this side of the track, it's really clean. You can all starting to see some bright metal. And this side, it's still scaly, no doubt. But it's a lot better than it was, and that's from sort of 10 till 5, so yeah, 7 hours. The water's changed colour dramatically. It's pretty murky now. So I think that's pretty good progress. So make a couple of, dig out a couple of lengths of this box section and clean them up again, and fire up the process again tomorrow and see where it goes. So I will I'll switch off now and back in a minute, but it'll be a day later. Okay, next morning, I've cleaned up our little anode from yesterday, nice and pretty and clean. We'll just put that down, locate that as close as we can. What you don't want is it touching, all right? Because then you'll just have a direct circuit. So, and then I made this one up quickly this morning, obviously about twice as long, and again all nice and clean. We'll drop that down by this side of the seat track. I've connected the two positives, to the anodes. That's already connected, and then we'll just pop this one on here. Again, they get a little tiny spark, and yeah, there we go. It's fizzing already. Yep, it's fizzing already, man. Okay, so the only other thing I did this morning, I'd taken it out of the solution overnight just to let it dry so I could get a closer look at it. And there was quite a lot of scale on it, but it was very soft and very crumbly instead of being like rock hard. So I gave it a quick wire brush just to get the really big bits off, and threw it back in. So there was literally 3 minutes worth of wire brushing, just rubbing on the surfaces I could get to, and popped it back in the solution. So yeah, it's ticking over quite nice in here. I'll grab the camera, try and give you guys a look. I'm getting a lot more fizzing over a bigger area now. So I think that's an improvement. So yeah, just going to let that cook all day and see what we got at 4:30. Back in a second. Okay guys, well, it's a few days later. I guess this experiment's been running 4 or 5 days. Now that's not 24-hour days, but kind of on and off. We've had other cars in the shop that have needed the battery charger to charge up batteries in those, so a second battery charger would have been advantageous, to be kind of uninterrupted. But that's just not the way it worked out. What I will say is Steve managed to dig up an old school battery charger that he had kind of hidden in the depths of his garage, which is a 10 amp manual type battery charger, and that improved the process. I didn't really want to go out and buy one, an old school, if you can find one, just to see whether this experiment worked. But tell you what, I think I can tell you is this experiment has worked 100%. And I'm really kind of mind blown. Like, I've seen quite a few videos about this system, and it's like, people were kind of getting a little bit of surface rust off an old set of pliers or an old hammer head or something like that. And it's like, is this gonna do what I'm wanting it to do, which was fairly extreme. So let me just remind you of what we were dealing with. This is the track off the other side, and you can see it's got some heavy pitting, heavy scale. I mean, it's just lots of it in there, like some heavy scaling, like just flaking off. So that's what we started with. Now, as I say, 4 or 5 days later, and a little bit of scraping here and there, a little bit of hammering on it to get the track moving, and it did actually start to move. First couple of times I tried, it was like nothing. I'm like, oh, is this going to work? But then it just suddenly started moving, and what we got now is actually 3 pieces, because it did all come apart eventually. This does now slide. It needs the rollers reinstalled, but yeah, we've now got a 3-piece track rather than, whoops, that goes that way around, that goes onto there, and there's your fixed piece that bolts in. But again, I'll try and kind of close up for you. Look how clean this is. I mean, it doesn't fix the pitting, obviously, because that's gone, but there's no more scaling. This thing is ends up with a darkish colour, but it's clean. It is absolutely clean. And there's some little bits and pieces that are a bit too thin and are going to need a bit of welding. You can kind of see a bit of daylight in a couple of spots there. But we got some broken studs, and a little bit of kind of repair work on it on a few of these little holes, and this is going to run again. It did used to have, now I'll show you on the underside of this track, there's a little spring steel kind of little blade almost here, and that's where the roller runs on. There's a little tiny roller which they've kind of cleaned up as well, which these little puppies. That's a little roller that just rolls here along the track, and it should have, I got them out, and that's about a 4 or 5 inch long piece of flat spring steel that was riveted in, and again, kind of zoom in, that's what's left of the little rivet head. So I've got to replicate that, because that's going to allow something for this roller to roll back and forward, like a smooth surface for it to roll back and forward on. And that the spring loaded in it, I'm guessing, stops the rattle, because there's nothing, imagine that metal on metal, if that's not tight, you know, like snug, it's going to rattle. So yeah, still a little bit of work to do, clearly. Yeah, this piece is super clean. You know, you got a tiny little kind of bit of brown staining on it from where the water's dried off it, and you know, it just gives you that little brown goldy colour on it, which that'll just, you know, a little bit of wire brush, and obviously going to need a little bit of paint on it. But yeah, the you can see where the pitting and scaling was. So this is, it's, I can honestly say this is rust free now. So yeah, I mean, we're not done by any means, but it's a lot better than, again, how this looks. You know, this is just plain old nasty. But yeah, it did take a little bit of persuasion to get them moving. Once I got them moving, that made a big difference. One of the issues I think with this electrolysis type setup is that it's pretty quick on these big open areas, but where the track was inside the track, you know, like a 3 layers here close together and tight, it wasn't getting in there as anywhere near as quick. So I think that's why the time frame is relatively lengthy. In saying that, you can just throw it in the tub of the solution and just walk away and just let it. You know, I was very curious. I was kind of going back every few hours and looking at it and you know, seeing how it was coming along. But you know, like this side, when we do the other side, I mean, I'm just going to throw that in the solution and walk away and come back 2 days later, because it doesn't eat anything that you need. It doesn't eat any of the actual steel. It just blows off the corrosion. You know, adding that extra long anode made a big difference. So I would do that. Get if whatever it is you're doing, try and get anodes as close as you can. And you know, you can't have too many of them. Don't both, you know, like surround it with some sort of sacrificial metal, which is your anode. Oh yeah, I'm going to call this, like, honestly, like a huge success. I think it's awesome. I'll be using that process again in the future. I'm not quite sure on what, but anything that I might possibly want to typically put in a sandblasting cabinet, which I don't have, I'm going to throw it in the solution and plug it in and walk away. And you know, you don't even have to, like a sandblaster, you're still going to spend half an hour on a small piece. Whereas this, you can just connect it, throw it in the solution, walk away, you know, do all the other, you know, long list of stuff you got to do, and just let that percolate away, and it'll be awesome. We'll come back. I'll come back with another video on, you know, we'll pop this transmission. That's what, okay, may not be the right term, but that's what I'd call a transmission, which is your, you know, your forward, your back, and your up and down transmission for the seat. So we'll pop that apart and kind of just have a little look in there and see what's going on, and then get the tracks assembled. That's another video. This one's about the electrolysis, and yeah, myth dispelled, myth, you know, debunked. This stuff works. All right, guys. I hope you find that helpful. Go and get some rust off something. It'll cost you like $5 for the soda. and washing soda, and yeah, you'll be a happy camper. Alright guys, take it easy. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.